Hey guys, I hope you are doing well. Welcome back to my YouTube channel, or welcome if you are new here. My name is Mpo and I am not a political analyst. So whatever you're about to see here today is a one-off event. But welcome, I hope you enjoy your stay here. Look around, see what you like. Today's video is all about the State of the Nation address. I wanted to come here quickly and just give you guys what my thoughts were. And if you didn't get a chance to watch it, actually summarize it for you. Well, not really summarize the whole thing, but summarize the 5 main points that I took away from the State of the Nation address that I want to share with you. So if you think you could be into that, do stick around. I've seen a lot of sentiments around going on, the State of the Nation address, saying the same thing year in and year out. But you know what? I wasn't too mad at yesterday's address. I felt like as long as we're still experiencing the same sort of challenges, we will hear the same things coming to play over and over again. And I think the bigger issue is why we are still experiencing the same challenges over and over again. And that's a conversation that we can have. But for today's video, I actually just wanted to summarize some of my key takeaways from the State of the Nation address yesterday and what my thoughts and feelings about it are. Now, before we get started, just a few disclaimers. I am not a political analyst. I am a normal citizen who pay a lot of my peanuts towards taxes, and I know you are as well. So if you're here expecting sort of professional analysis, that's not necessarily what you're going to get here. So if you want to read the whole statement, the whole speech, you can go to the link on the description box and it'll take you to that speech. So the first thing that I wanted to chat about is the tone. And on the tone, you know what? I felt like it was hard to be mad, well, at least for me. It was hard to be mad about the bad things that we know are going on because he beat himself up. So the president came in and the tone I felt was very, not apologetic, but humble and took accountability for the lot of things that are wrong. And I appreciated that. I know actually, because I'm in sales, I know it's a sales tactic to beat yourself up first so that the next person doesn't beat you. And I did feel it coming through in the State of the Nation address of 2022. At the same time, I also got a sense of hope. We will be rebuilding better. The fire that happened in Parliament being sort of like poetically tied to the distraction that's caused by COVID-19, to the looting that we saw in July or June of 2021 last year, and the corruption, the different commissions that have wrapped up, and investigations that have wrapped up, and just it almost feels that if we allow it, this could be our rock bottom, and then we can only go up from there, and that sentiment of hope I appreciated. And I know this could come across as naive, but what's the alternative? If we're saying we can't be hopeful about the state or about this being the worst we could ever be as a country, then the alternative for me isn't beautiful, and I'd rather remain in the hope and in saying, you know what, this is pretty bad, but this is as bad as it could be. I don't know. Let me know what you think. So overall theme of it, I felt, was on economic growth or the lack thereof. Many points were raised, and like I mentioned, the full speech can be found in the description. There's a link that I have there. So I'll just mention the 5 points that I wanted to highlight. We're starting with unemployment, and I'm going to quote from his speech. So it says, last year, our unemployment rate reached its highest recorded level. Unemployment has been caused by low growth, which has in turn resulted from a long-term decline in investment. In the last year, we have benefited from a clear and stable macroeconomic framework, strong commodity prices, and a better than expected recovery. However, we have been held back by an unreliable electricity supply, inefficient network industries, and the higher cost of doing business. He went on to say that, we know that in a capitalist society, it isn't necessarily the job of government to create jobs, but what government or the state needs to do is to create an environment that's conducive to job creation, and job creations remains the function of the private sector. Many people didn't take this well, but in reality, the role of government really isn't to pay wages, but it's to create an environment that allows for businesses to thrive, to produce more, to need more workers, and as there's more workers earning, production demand is also increasing. That whole cycle continues. So He also did touch on the red tape that's currently very, very much here in South Africa that just makes it difficult for businesses to thrive. And we will look at that, the loops and bounds that businesses experience in just conducting business here. And I'll also touch on that later when we speak about small businesses and just the business environment. He also acknowledged that, there are structural issues which are just making it difficult for businesses to thrive in SA outside of the red tape. And load shedding was actually noted as one. When electricity supplies cannot be guaranteed, when railways and ports are inefficient, when innovation is held back by a scarcity of broadband spectrum, when water quality deteriorates, companies are reluctant to invest and the economy cannot function properly. But on a more positive note, he also mentioned many initiatives that are underway to create jobs. And some of these numbers are numbers we've heard before. We've heard however many hundreds of thousands of jobs being created. And I guess it's also up to us to hold our government accountable, which I'm not saying we're not doing, because I do believe we're doing. So he also mentioned that there's about 500,000 jobs expected from investment from global businesses, 130,000 jobs from the cannabis sector. That was a whole thing. There was a whole section dedicated on the industrialization of cannabis, which I'm not going to touch on, but that whole sector is about to experience a high. Anyways, also 10,000 jobs from Home Affairs as they try to digitize documents, and then 50,000 jobs from the Social Employment Fund in fields such as urban agriculture, early childhood development, public art, as well as tackling gender-based violence. So that's that on employment. I think the one exciting thing that came out was just the outlook on the cannabis sector. And I know a lot of you guys, if you want, personally, I know nothing about the sector, but if you wanted to get in there, it's probably be a nice one to learn as it's still new. It's basically new opportunities, industries expanding, which is great. The second point that I want to touch on is energy. The energy crisis is one of the greatest threats to economic and social progress. In the last few days, we have once again been reminded of the fragility of our electricity system. Load shedding continues to have a huge impact on the lives of all South Africans, disrupting business activities and placing additional strains on families and communities. And as you can see here, that theme of being humble and taking accountability and pointing out that state capture and corruption and missteps is why we are here. I think is also why I'm not necessarily going to sit here and say this is why you're here, because we've already pointed it out. At the same time, they've spoken about a number of energy generation programs which will be coming online in the next few years. And this should take some heat off Eskom. I also appreciated that the programs all sounded to be more cleaner and greener. And then also remember our pledge to move from coal in COP26. I'll speak more on climate change in the later part of the video, but this was also something that came through. The next theme, the third theme that I wanted to speak on is small businesses. I spoke about unemployment, and I also wanted to highlight what was said about small businesses in the State of the Nation Address of 2022. A lot of us want to start businesses or be part of businesses that transform not only our livelihoods, but, change the world as we know it. But the reality for many South Africans is that businesses that we start, or businesses are started from the point of just providing for individual families. And, small businesses then go on to employ the next person in the same community. This year, we are undertaking far-reaching measures to unleash the potential of small businesses, micro businesses, and informal businesses. These are businesses that create the most jobs and provide the most opportunities for poor people to earn a living. There was a mention of a bounce back loan scheme. So if you guys remember, there was that loan guarantee scheme. And the issue with that was that whilst it was targeted for small businesses, it still was in the hands of traditional banks to assess affordability, and traditional banking requirements just resulted in this guarantee scheme not reaching as many small businesses as government had intended. So the new scheme, the Bounce Back Scheme, as it was called in the State of the Nation address, will work with development finance institutions as well as non-bank SME funders. The president also went on to say the following: we are reviewing the Business Act alongside a broader review of legislation that affects SMMEs to reduce the regulatory burden on informal businesses. There are too many regulations in this country that are unduly complicated, costly, and difficult to comply with. This prevents companies from growing and creating jobs. We are therefore working to improve the business environment for companies of all sizes through a dedicated capacity in the presidency to reduce red tape. And I think a lot of businesses will welcome that. A lot of small businesses, an environment that just makes it easier for them to operate, an environment that encourages them to operate. So I wasn't mad at that, but let me know so far what you guys think. The fourth point that I wanted to summarize for you guys is corruption. I'm not going to do the talking here. I will let you hear it from the president's mouth.
Efforts to revive our economy will succeed if we do not tackle the scourge of corruption once and for all. Since the beginning of the year, I've been provided with the first two parts of the report of the Commission of Inquiry into State Capture headed by Acting Chief Justice Raymond Zondo. While the definitive conclusion has yet to be delivered at the end of this month, the first two parts of the report make it plain that there was indeed state capture.
He also went on to mention that the National Prosecuting Authority, or the NPA, would be involved in ensuring that justice is actually delivered. Call me naive again here, but I'm going to believe that those who had a hand or found to have had a hand in state capture will be held accountable, because these actions, quite frankly, affected the most vulnerable, the livelihoods of the most vulnerable. So we can't downplay the implications of corruption in South Africa. It really takes lives. So, like I said, I have no choice but to be hopeful, because if I'm not hopeful, then I am saying that this is basically what life in South Africa for myself and for my kids is like. And I'd rather have hope and believe that things will be better, action will be taken. Number 5 is climate change, and I'll kick it off by quoting from the speech once again. We live in one of the regions of the world that is most affected by climate change. We frequently experience droughts, floods, and other extreme weather events associated with global warming. For the first time, our climate targets are compatible with limiting warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius. I've already spoken about the pledge that was made in COP26 in Glasgow to move away from coal, or repurpose coal rather, for something other than burning electricity. He also mentioned that 131 billion deal that was struck in Glasgow, which is also, one of the terms and conditions. It's just that we move away from coal, or we repurpose coal. Personally, I'm excited to see how SA comes up as a green economy. And I mean, this bears opportunities for us. There was mention of electric vehicles, and we've already seen young people coming up and leading in this space. So I'm very excited and very hopeful to see, how we all stand up and basically rally behind the biggest challenge, I believe, of our generation, which is climate change. So that's it from the main points, right? My 5 key takeaways. What did you think? Did you like the State of the Nation address? I mean, we don't have to like it, because it's quite bad, the position that we find ourselves as a country and economically. Given all of these investments, we still need to come up with ideas. And I like to think of ourselves as, participating members of society, of this economy. So we're not necessarily going to leave everything to the government, but we understand also the power and the ideas that we have, and that all of those are important. So let me know. What do you think? Are you hopeful? What did you not like? What did you like? Let me know in the comment section. And until next time, goodbye.